Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Innovative Approaches to Literacy, presented by Chrissy Romano, a William Patterson alumna who received her master's in education from William Patterson in 2004. My name is Sharon Ryan, and I work in the alumni office at William Patterson. Participants in this session will dive in and explore methods to create a student-centered technology-enhanced ELA classroom. You will also take away an understanding of how to use Google Classroom, Docs, and Slides, and discover apps and extensions to support all learners. Before I introduce the presenter, I'd like to go over how the webinar will work. I know some of you were here last week, but just in case, here we go. First of all, you should be able to view the presentation on your computer screen. You will also be able to hear the presentation, I hope you can hear me well, through your computer's audio system. Please feel free to ask questions by typing them in on your side panel. We will be monitoring questions and will most likely answer them as we go through the webinar. Please don't be shy, ask questions. Chrissy loves answering questions. Any questions not answered in today's webinar will be addressed after the webinar is completed. And on one more important note, I wanted to let you all know that last week, many of you asked at the end of the webinar if you could obtain professional development certificates by attending these webinars, and we actually did go get approval. So you will be receiving your certificate via email for any of the Google webinars that you attend. Finally, I'd like to introduce Chrissy. Chrissy Romano is a veteran teacher with over 24 years of experience with students in elementary and middle school. She has spent the bulk of her career teaching in Hackensack, where she was born and raised. She graduated from Rutgers University with a double major in sociology and psychology and went on to complete the teacher certification program. She then earned a master's in counseling from William Patterson University. Chrissy is dedicated to teaching the whole child, as well as stimulating and supporting innovation in classrooms. She continues to be passionate about teaching and infusing technology to engage and motivate students. Chrissy is a Google for Education certified trainer and provides educational consulting and training to educators on the East Coast. She is a co-host of #CoffeeEDU, an informal monthly gathering of educators in Westwood, New Jersey. She's the co-director of NJASCD North and a lead organizer of EdCamp New Jersey and an overall EdCamp enthusiast. And now I would like to introduce our presenter, Chrissy Romano.
Hi, everybody. I am pleased to be here. I just want to put a little disclaimer. I'm actually down the shore in the middle of a lightning storm, so there's a distinct possibility that we may lose power. And Sharon is actually not too far away in Toms River, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we do not lose power down here. If that is the case, we promise that we will reschedule, weather permitting. So we're going to get started with innovative approaches to literacy. In the description, it does talk a little bit about Google Classroom, Docs and Slides and all of that. And I should have kind of amended that when I sent it to Sharon, because at that time I did not realize that we are not interactive here. So I had to cut down on some of those tools, although I will hit on them. We're going to go into Google Classroom in much, much greater detail. I believe in 2 weeks, Sharon, 3 weeks, at the end of August. It's our last webinar that's on the schedule for this series. What's the date?
August 30th.
August 30th, yeah, it's at the very end. So we will go into lots of detail for Google Classroom, so we're really not going to touch upon that very much today at all. As Sharon did mention, please do not hesitate to ask questions as we go through. I find that it's a little bit easier to manage the questions, you know, as they pop up instead of waiting until the end. So don't hesitate, and Sharon will stop us, you know, stop me whenever questions pop in. We're ready to start, Sharon?
All set.
Okay, here we go. So this is one of my favorite quotes, and it's by John Dewey. If we teach today as we taught yesterday, then we rob our children of tomorrow. And quite often when I do trainings and I travel to different school districts and around the country, you know, inevitably you're going to have the people that sit there and say, well, you know, the way I was taught worked for me. Look where I am. And, you know, I'm doing okay. So why do I have to change? Why do I have to do things differently? Why do students need to be engaged? And I wouldn't be surprised if you've had those same questions yourself. And the simple answer is society has changed, kids have changed, and the expectations once our kids graduate from school and go out into the job force is certainly much, much different than it was when we were in school. So it behooves all of us to, you know, dive into the 21st century, which we've been in for quite a while here, bone up on technology and find different ways to be innovative in the classroom, to engage our students, and to find different ways to make learning more exciting. And that's what we're going to do today. Most of the focus is on literacy, and a lot of people think when they hear literacy, it has to be the English classroom, the ELA classroom. But what you're going to find if you teach in the content area, science or social studies, literacy is everywhere. So I want, for those of you that are more than just an English teacher, if you're an elementary teacher and you teach all the subjects, you're going to see how a lot of the tools and strategies that we're going to talk about tonight fit into all those different areas. So we're not really pigeonholing strictly the ELA classroom. So what is innovation? That's a buzzword that is thrown all over the place today. So the definition we're going to go with is a way of thinking that's new and better. It's not necessarily recreating the wheel, but it's making a better, faster, more efficient wheel to get us where we want to go. And we're going to start with some fun stuff here. So hopefully you guys have seen these images before, and they're called Bitmojis. They're kind of like an extension or a better version of the emoji, which, you know, little smiley faces and frowny faces and things like that that most people are familiar with. And I found a way to use Bitmoji in the classroom to liven up the feedback that you're giving your students. So first and foremost, when kids hand in work to you, the end goal should not really be that you assign a task, the kids complete the task, they turn it into you, the teacher, you grade it, right? That's the workflow that probably most of us have, as students, experienced. Except that what happens is once that paper or that project or that assignment is given back to the student and they see the grade, the learning stops. It ends right there. So the idea is really before you give that grade, offer the students feedback. Catch them in the middle of the process. While they're actually working on their task, whatever that task may be, give them constructive feedback. So we're going to talk tonight a little bit about a couple of ways to do that. So think back to when you were in school and you handed in something to the teacher and you got a sticker on it. I mean, even when I was teaching middle school, my 5th and 6th graders still liked getting those stickers. So using Bitmojis, or doc stickers as some people call them, is another way of doing that. So what you can do is go into your Chrome web store and search for Bitmoji and create your Bitmoji if you don't already have one. And what you see is that little image of me. That's me.
It really does look like her. I just want to let you all know that really does look like her.
It does. It looks a lot like me. And anyway, so they're like little stickers. So what I like to do is when the kids are working in Google Forms, I'm sorry, not Forms, they're working in Slides or they're working in Google Docs. When I go in and leave them comments about their work, I also throw them a little sticker here and there. And you can see, so those are some of the examples there. And it's just a way for the kids to see that you are relevant. It's another way of putting a sticker on their work. Of course, you're going to give them more constructive feedback than just a Bitmoji, but it's really old school feedback with a twist. That's kind of what I like to call it. At the bottom, oh, and what I did for you, by the way, anything that you see in red and underlined, those are live links. So those will take you out to other pages that give you more information, you know, to find out more than we can do in this hour's time. And you know what, Sharon? I just realized I forgot to tell them about the tiny URL. Oh. So everybody, we're going to take a quick pause and we're going to go back a couple slides. If you can see on the screen here where it says this tiny URL, tinyurl.com/WPU 2017. If you have a smartphone with you right now, take a picture of it. If you have a pen or a pen and paper with you, write that down. And what you do is you put that URL, that tinyurl.com/WPU2017 in your browser. So open up a new tab, put that in your browser. You will have live access to the slides that we're going through right now. Because right now, as I'm talking, I'm the only one that can click on the links. But if you get live access to it, when we finish up here, you will also be able to click on the links and have access to all the different resources that I loaded in here for you. So I'm gonna go back to the slide that we're on right now, but at the very end, I'll go back to this one again, just in case you need to go grab that paper and pencil or your smartphone to take a photo. So back to the feed.
Send it in the email, that link as well.
Yes,
so you'll have
right,
it.
and Sharon will also send it in the email. At the bottom here, there are two extensions, add-ons, I should say, that you can use with Google Docs and Google Slides. One is called Kaizen Shortcut, and the other is called Jozu. They both actually do the same thing, but I prefer these days to use Jozu, and I'm going to tell you why. Both of them provide audio feedback. So I want you to think about a time, and this has happened to all of us. I think you'd be hard-pressed to say it hasn't, that you have either sent a text or received a text, or sent an email or received an email, and whatever was in that email was misinterpreted. You didn't quite understand the tone. You were trying to be funny, but the person that received it didn't quite find the humor in it. That has happened to all of us at one point in time. And I have seen through the years, when I leave feedback for students, sometimes their parents are looking over their shoulders, and we all know those helicopter parents. They always want to be in the middle of the action and what's going on with their kids. And they may turn around and say, well, what did Miss Romano mean by that? I don't like the way she worded that. That sounds a little snarky. So to alleviate those misunderstandings, Kaizen Shortcut and Jozu offer the options for audio feedback. So what does that mean? It means you will go in, you will highlight exactly what you're going to comment on in docs or slides, and you will use the mic on your device to actually leave audio feedback. You will speak into the mic and tell your kids the same thing that you would have written. And the reason I really like this feature is because, you know, over time with your students, you build a rapport with them. You can make jokes with them. They can hear the inflection in your voice. They know when you're serious. They know when you're kidding. And there's a lot less room for misinterpretation when they actually hear you speaking. So how does this work on the classroom? I give my kids an assignment. They're working on the assignment, and maybe somewhere through the process before it's due. So let's just say I give the assignment on a Monday. They work in it in class on Monday night, Tuesday, homework and whatnot. Maybe Tuesday evening or during my prepper lunch, I'll go in and leave the feedback. And then when the kids come in on Wednesday, they literally will have the directive, okay guys, sit down on your device, whatever it may be, put on your headphones, go into such and such a doc or set of slides, listen to my feedback, and take action on it. Because we all know when you get a piece of paper back from a teacher and they have everything scrawled in red pen, all they do is look at the grade. They really don't even pay attention. I mean, let's be honest, they really don't pay attention to what you wrote. And if you go and you leave feedback in a doc or set of slides or on their work, and you don't actually tell the kids, go back, read the feedback, and take action on it, they're not going to. So I build it right into the lesson plan. So when we get finished with the webinar today, if you click on the links, it'll take you to the Chrome Web Store for you to add Kaizen Shortcut and for you to add Jozu. If you have any questions how to actually use them, like actually put them into practice, if you go on YouTube and you put in Kaizen Shortcut and Jozu, you're absolutely positively going to find a tutorial or 2 or 3 or 4 on how to actually use them. I have found that YouTube is my greatest resource for how to do basically anything with technology way before I ever go to Google. My kids now know that they ask 3 before they ask me, and they ask YouTube first, Google second, and then a classmate third. And then if all else fails, they'll come to me. So Sharon, I just want to take a quick pause and see if anybody has any questions about that.
Yes, there's just two quick questions. One's logistical. Do you happen to know a name, model, and ballpark figure of the exterior microphone? Because this person wants to ask their administrator if it can be ordered for their department, or can you give it?
I do not, but you should have mics built into your MacBooks, your Chromebooks, your laptops. They all have built-in microphones. You should not have to actually add an external mic. The only time you would need to do so is if you are working on a desktop computer. So whoever that person is that asked the question, are you working on a desktop computer? If not, then you're just going to use the built-in mic. It even works on iPads.
Oh, okay. I hope that helps the person. And one person just said that the link didn't work, the initial link that you gave, but we'll talk about that at the end because.
The tiny URL link?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, and it does.
Okay.
Thank you. The microphone does. Yeah,
what was that?
someone it didn't work for the link, so.
Okay, I will make sure that it works. Sharon and I will test it out at the very end before we leave. But like, save the last 2 minutes, and we'll make sure we'll do a quick check before everybody leaves. Any other questions?
That is it. Oh, wait. A few more are coming in. Oh, the red highlight links. Oh, no, they won't work on you on the doc stickers Bitmoji. Those links won't work right now, but when you get this presentation, you'll be able to go through.
Right. So, for example, if I click on Jozu, it's going to take you right to the Chrome Web Store, and it lets you add it right here to your web browser. But you guys don't have access to that yet. You will at the end.
You will at the very end when you get all the information.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That is it. Thank you.
Okay. Next one, this is some cool features that are built into Google Docs and Slides, voice typing and the Explore tool. And basically what voice typing does, it allows you to type as you speak. So think about those of you that have iPhones and smartphones and use a little, Siri to text while you're driving, or just like my son uses it for everything now. He doesn't type anything into his smartphone anymore. He's gotten very lazy since he's discovered Siri. And simply what you do here is you would go into Google Docs or Google Slides. And what I'm actually going to do is escape for just a second here. And, oh, this is view only. It's not going to let me show it. I'm going to open up a blank doc. And here we go, a Google Doc. So docs and slides pretty much work the same. Whatever works for one pretty much works for the other. Oh, now I see why these aren't opening. I have the wrong account. I'm on my husband's computer, guys. I'm a Chromebook user, and Chromebook does not allow GoToWebinar. So I'm always borrowing somebody's MacBook.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, all right, it's not gonna let me do that. So essentially what happens is at the top, you're gonna have a toolbar. It's going to say tools. You click on the tools, and it's going to give you voice typing. And literally all you do is click on it, a little mic pops up, and as you speak into the mic, it types. The only thing you're gonna notice, it's very obvious, you have to use punctuation. So you literally would have to say, the cat jumped over the hat, period. The dog laid on the mat, period. And the kids figure that out very quickly. Voice typing is a great modification for students that are struggling. So kids with 504s and IEPs, it's an excellent modification. It's good for younger students that are still learning how to use a keyboard and where their thoughts are flowing, but their keyboarding skills can't quite keep up. So voice typing is a great modification for them as well. And it's something that you can offer your students, give them that choice, and you will find that some will take advantage of it and use it, and then some will not. And in my experience, that's what I have seen. The other cool feature that is in Docs and Slides is called the Explore tool. Let's see if it's gonna pop up here. And again, we're in view only, but in Slides, it's down here on the bottom. And I believe in Docs, it's up at the top, and it literally says Explore. And what happens is you click on that, and then it allows you to actually do your research in Google search while you're right in the doc. So you don't have to open up a separate tab and go back and forth. It's just one of the ways to work a little bit smarter instead of working harder. It's something, again, that I show my students. Sometimes they like to use the explore feature. And I'll be honest with you, this time last year, it was called the research tool, and it had many more, it had much more functionality to it. And then I don't know what Google was thinking, and then they switched it over to the explore tool, and most people don't really use it too much anymore. But for the kids that struggle to stay organized, for the kids that have difficulty keeping lots of tabs open on their screen, the explore tool definitely comes in handy. Any questions there?
No, none coming in. That's good. Thank you.
So here are some other tools to use for struggling readers. And what I find is that when you're teaching, especially at the elementary, even into like 5th grade level, in the English classroom, teachers tend to level the text, and kids are working maybe in guided reading. They're working on, leveled text that meets their best meets their needs. But when they go into science and social studies and into the content areas and they're reading nonfiction, kids really struggle. The kids that struggled a little bit in the ELA classroom struggle even more in the content area. So what I like here, these are text to speech readers. So they do the opposite of like voice typing, so to speak. This enables kids to focus on comprehension and not focus so much on sounding and blending, which is, in literacy, we call that decoding. And what happens is the kids that struggle to read, and my son is the perfect example, he is so focused on sounding and blending the words and actually reading the words that he loses the overall meaning as a whole. And of course, not only does it affect your fluency, but it affects your comprehension. So I gave you 3 choices here: Speak It, Announceify, and Read and Write for Google. Read and Write for Google is my favorite. And basically what it allows kids to do, anything that's on the screen that they have to read, once they activate Read and Write for Google, it will read it aloud to them. So the kids put on their headphones, they simply click at the beginning, and it will read the text to them. So they are focused now on reading for meaning instead of sounding and blending. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Any questions, Sharon?
Yes, I'm not sure I understand it, but I will say it. Could you kindly model which links on the menu bar are needed so we may voice edit student work? This would be great for my classes from a teacher. I'm not a teacher, so.
Okay, read it one more time.
Could you model which links on the menu bar are needed so we may voice edit student work?
Voice edit student work. Are they talking about Jozu? Like giving feedback?
He says,
I'm not sure who asked that question, but is that what you're talking about?
the teacher for grades 5 to 8.
Mm-hmm.
He said yes, that's what he means. Jozu feedback, yes.
So basically what you do is you would click on Jozu or the other one. Jozu is my favorite, which again, you guys can't, that's the thing with the webinars. I wish they were interactive, but they're not. So I apologize. I didn't set up the structure of the webinar. So what happens is you would click on the link. It would bring you to this page. There's going to be a button here that says free. You would click on that button. And it's going to load.
Thank you for doing this. And you'll be getting this, so you'll be able to play with the links. So
Right, exactly. And then it says here, Jozu Express needs your permission to run. You would click continue.
while you're doing this, I'm going to ask another question. Can you use this for French students?
You should be able to. I think I know who asked that question. Hi, Natalie. It's not working. Let's see. Okay, and then it's going to ask for permissions. These are all just the steps you have to go through on your own. And you just click allow, and then it's going to be there. So let's just say you have some text here and you want to leave feedback. You would highlight, you would go to add-ons. Oh, see, it's not here now. let's see, you know what? This is a Mac. It's so different, Sharon, than my Chromebook here.
So always uses Chromebook, and we're sorry, but GoToWebinar doesn't support Chromebook. So
yeah, let me see if I can get it this way. It should be here. I apologize, guys. It's not coming up this way. Normally what would happen, and I have it, again, I have it on my Chromebook, is you would highlight here, and it's going to give you, there's the option to just add your regular comment. See, it's coming up as my husband. It's not coming up as me. That's the problem, because this is his computer. This is how you leave regular comments, but when it would come up as an add-on, it would pop up here. And what's happening is it's conflicting between my account and his account. So I apologize that.
Okay, but I think they get, you probably have shown the best way to do it, but it's under the add-ons in that screen, right?
Right. And that person, that middle school teacher, if you go to add Jozu and you struggle with that, you're going to see all of my contact information. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. And if you do that, I could actually get on my Chromebook and walk you through it. So I apologize. It's these Apple computers. They're not what I'm used to. So hopefully that answered some of your question.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we move on?
No, that's good. He said thank you. He'll play around with Jozu later. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so here's like the highlight for me this school year is I discovered Seesaw. Seesaw literally is my go-to platform for everything these days. Everything else that I showed you was like icing on the cake, but this is really the bread and butter of what everything that I use in the classroom. So what I'm going to do is show you a quick video that's going to give you a little bit of an idea of what Seesaw is all about.
Seesaw is a learning journal that empowers students to showcase what they're learning at school. Students each get their own journal and can easily add items just by taking a picture. You can also add video, drawings, or anything from the camera roll. Seesaw's camera detects if it's being held steady before taking a picture, and 2 taps is all it takes to add a voice explanation, drawing, or text. Next, students pick their name from the class list and add the item to their journal. It's that easy. Students as young as 5 are using Seesaw with minimal teacher supervision. Teachers can browse items from the whole class or review a single student's work. Seesaw helps keep everything organized and in one place. Seesaw journals are accessible from anywhere, on iPads, iPhones, and on the web, making them great to refer back to for parent-teacher conferences, assessments, or student self-reflection. When teachers approve new items, parents are automatically notified, giving parents a personalized glimpse into their child's day and a conversation starter for later. Parents can view only their child's journal, and student journals are kept completely private. Setting up your class takes just 30 seconds. Download Seesaw in the App Store and get started.
Okay, so that's a quick little overview of Seesaw. So since that video was created, there have been some updates over the summer that have been absolutely phenomenal. One of them is that you can send messages out to parents either as a whole class or individually, and they can message you back privately. So they can't message the whole class, but they can message you. So it eliminates the need for Class Dojo or Remind or some of those, other communication apps. So now you can basically do everything in one platform. So what you see here is a student of mine on the left, and if you notice that little phone that she has there, that was a really cool thing that I discovered that helps you cut down on outside or background noise. So while the kids are actually creating their videos or they're narrating whatever it is that they're talking about, I got those off of Amazon. I believe they cost like $8 or $9 each, and I only bought like 4 or 5 of them, so the kids kind of rotate through. And they plug them into the mic port on their device. And as you can see, my kids are using Chromebooks. You could use iPads or any other type of a tablet or Chromebooks or laptops. It really doesn't matter. and it cuts down. And also, you know, they think it's fun. Like they're not used to seeing those sorts of phones. You know, those existed when I was a kid, but these kids have never seen them. So that's a little bit about Seesaw. So here's some of the things that my kids did this year, and really, it's the things that you can do with Seesaw are endless. So my kids wrote shape poetry, and I love this one on the right, the Starbucks here. The poetry actually goes, you know, all the way around. So they did shape poetry here, and what they did is they took a picture of it, and then they used the label feature to actually label, you know, some of the different words that they used. And keep in mind, these kids are 8 years old. We talked a little bit earlier about literacy, and we said that literacy is everywhere, even in the math classroom. So when my kids were learning measurement and we were doing area and perimeter, you can see here on the right, the kids all got these little Cheez-Its, they made their shape, and then they had to calculate, you know, length and width, area and perimeter using the different features of Seesaw. And here's some other versions of that as well. So here's another one that shows to do perimeter and area. And you can see they look a little bit different. There's a drawing feature here. And over here, again, in our geometry unit, they were making different shapes. So what they had to do on paper is use the different shapes. They traced them, they colored them to make a creature or an object of whatever it was. And then they had to add down here, you know, some written text explaining what they did. Another option could have been that they clicked the record button and they could have narrated instead of typed, or they could have done both. So any questions about Seesaw?
Yeah.
So Sharon, take those questions. I'm gonna run and get my plug and I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Okay. I have some questions here that I'm going to ask Chrissy when she returns, but if you have any more, write them in because we're going to keep going. But
okay, I'm back.
okay. Okay. Well, the first question is, are students expected to bring their own device to school, or are they using the program on class laptops?
They're using whatever devices you have in school.
Okay. And can students' cell phones be too small and usable for Seesaw? Can they use their cell phones with Seesaw?
You know what? They probably could. I mean, I know there is a Seesaw app that you can get from the App Store or the Play Store. And, you know, I have a Samsung Note, which is a larger cell phone, and I use the app version, like the teacher side of it. But yeah, they probably could. I don't see why not.
Oh, great.
Kids are pretty savvy these days, depending on, you know, whatever technology they have.
Sure. Another question is, do you think this application could act as a portfolio, possibly for big projects or even formative assessments?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It actually, when you Google it, that's the first thing that comes up is they call it a digital portfolio.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the year, what you're able to do is curate all of that child's work into one digital portfolio. You know, so they're able to see all of their work, and it's even you can even download all the material as well, everything that they've done over the course of the year. I mean, it's a great way. Like I used it for formative assessment. I use the video feature a lot this year. So as an alternative to the test or the quiz, you know, after a particular lesson or maybe a lesson that spans 2 or 3 days, like I would say to the kids, okay, now I want you to reflect on what you learned, you know, take a minute. And some kids would jot it down in their notebook first. And then they would go off and, you know, we had different areas of the room that were quiet, and they would go off and they would use the video feature and they would tell me what they learned. Other kids would do the same thing, except they would click on the little button that said a note, and then they would write what they learned or type what they learned. Other kids used the drawing feature, and they were able to show me what they learned by drawing a diagram, and then they were able to narrate that, add the audio piece to that as well. So there's a lot of different things here. I absolutely recommend. It's free, by the way, and you know, if it's free, it's me. Definitely check it out and play around with it. One of the other things I really love about it that they didn't talk about in the video is it integrates with Google Drive. So if you have kids working in Google Classroom and you're assigning things in Classroom, they are able to upload them into Seesaw directly from Drive. And then the parents have access to all that. And by the way, that's optional. You don't have to give the parents access. I always believe in transparency, and I believe It's great for them to see what their kids are doing, because when conference time rolls around, it completely changes the dynamics of the conversation, because now they're seeing their kids work on a daily basis. And when the conversation used to be, well, my son or my daughter can do X, Y, and Z at home, I don't understand that they're not doing it in the classroom. Well, that's when you can turn around, flip the Chromebook around and say, well, here's what's actually happening in the classroom. So let's talk about that. So I think it's a great feature. Any other questions about Seesaw?
No, I think that's good. Thank you very much, Chrissy.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about digital storytelling. So kids are doing lots of writing, or they should be doing lots of writing in their classroom. And in real traditional classrooms, the writing is done in notebooks, or maybe it's done on a Google Doc that's turned into Google Classroom, and the only person that actually sees it is the teacher. Maybe if you're doing a readers and writers workshop, there might be a little celebration, and then your audience are your classmates. So these are just some ideas of moving away from that publishing your work on a Google Doc, or publishing your work, you know, on Microsoft Word, or whatever it is. Try to publish it in a different way. So I'm going to give you guys, there's a couple of different ones here we're going to talk about, or you can click on all of these links when you have access to the set of slides at the end. But I'm going to show you two that I really, really like. One of my favorites is Blabberize, and I'm going to show that to you right now. So the kids still do their writing and they craft their piece the same way that you would always teach writing. There's nothing new there. There's nothing that has to change about the way you teach. But when it comes to actually publishing their work, instead of just typing it on a piece of paper and printing it out and handing it in, here is an alternative. And boy, Sharon, we're running into all sorts of techie problems today.
It could be the rain. It could be the weather.
I would like to think so. All
Blame it.
right, while Blabberize loads, we're going to jump over to Story Jumper. We'll come back to Blabberize. So Story Jumper is something I absolutely love. I used it when I taught middle school, and I brought it down to 3rd grade when I moved back to the elementary school this past year. So whether the kids were in middle school or in elementary, it really didn't matter. They still really enjoyed the tool. So basically, what my kids did here is they were writing fractured fairy tales. Now, again, it doesn't matter what the content is. It doesn't matter what they're writing about. But one of the things that I liked is that actually Story Jumper gives you this graphic organizer that I was able to print and give to my students. They were able to sketch out, you know, the skeleton of their story. Then they went into Story Jumper itself, and let's see if this link is going to work. Here we go. And keep your fingers crossed, people, that this one actually works. Here we go. And what actually happens is it creates an actual digital storybook online, but there are options to purchase the book if you want. And what I did was I sent home the information to the parents, and if they decided they wanted to, they purchased the book, and the kids actually got the option of buying either a soft cover book, a hardcover book, or they could just download the book. So here, we'll just take a quick look at what it actually looks like on the inside. So it literally is a digital storybook. So they add all of these illustrations. They're able to add the text to it. And one of the things I like is once the kids created their storybook, we were able to grab the URL, drop that into Seesaw, and now all of their classmates were able to see it, along with their parents as well. And then the neat part, again, is they're able to purchase the books if we want. So what happened this year was my principal thought it was such a novel idea that she said that each of my kids, she paid for it, and that each of the kids was able to pick the book that they created over the course of the year, their favorite one. They went back and they, you know, went back and revised and edited it and made it absolutely perfect, and that's the one that they purchased. But it's neat. So you can see actually here, I'm going to be quiet for a second. You can actually hear the pages flipping. And these are stories created by kids. So this is, you know, a far better depiction of what a story looks like than just typing something on a Google Doc. So that's Story Jumper. Let's see if Blabberize, oh, nope. Blabberize is not working, not quite sure why. Hopefully on your end, Blabberize will work. Blabberize is cool. It's a little avatar that pops up and the mouth moves, and then you are able to speak into the microphone and narrate your story that way, and it will tell your story as opposed to you typing your story. Hopefully that makes sense. By the way, when you're using technology in the classroom, you really can't let yourself get flustered if things don't work. This is actually a really good example of how sometimes things work and sometimes they don't. And you know, if you roll with the punches and you just go with the flow, your kids will see that when you model that behavior, and then they won't freak out if something doesn't work. Because we all know that technology is glitchy, and there are those days you're gonna walk in and you may have no internet access at all. Listen, I've done Google trainings where they've flown me out, you know, to a certain location in the middle of the country, and here I am doing a presentation, and then all of a sudden, you know, something doesn't work. And it happens, so you just kind of have to roll with it. So that's just, actually this was kind of a good example that happened. Any questions about either one of those so far? Story Jumper, by the way, you can use that. I know what you just saw was very elementary because that's what the kids created, but you can use this in any content area at any grade level. You can create nonfiction books as well as fiction. It's really up to whatever you want to assign or whatever the student chooses. Any questions, Sharon, before we move on?
Just two. One is, you said, you know, free as me. Are these all free, like Story Jumper? And,
yes.
Okay, that's great. And one question is, how much time do you build into your teaching to show and teach students how to use the programs?
That's a great question. So when I discovered Story Jumper, I literally went to an ed camp on a Saturday, came back to school on Monday and said, hey, kids, guess what I just found? Let's figure it out. So all I did was show them how to log in. And there's a little video that comes with it when you create the account that walks them through it. So I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't know I don't know all the ins and outs of Story Jumper. But if you asked one of my third graders, they could teach you better than me. So one of the things that I have learned is that I'm a student and a learner, just like my kids are. And I do not expect myself to walk into a classroom and know the ins and outs of every single tech tool. It's impossible for us. You know, we're not, you know, Superman and Superwoman. It's really hard to do that. And my kids know that from the very beginning of the school year. I let them know that as I go out and continue my professional development, as I attend webinars as the learner, as I attend ed camps, and when I go to conferences and I learn, you know, sometimes I'm going to bring things back and then we're going to learn together. So if my third graders can figure out Story Jumper, your kids can too. And you don't have to go in there with all the knowledge of all the ins and outs of every tech tool. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Is there a limit to the Story Jumper book pages, like how many pages you can make? Do you know that?
You know what? I don't think there is, because I've had kids go on and on and on and on. But that I can't. I don't know 100%. I mean, I've seen a kid create a book with 20 pages.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a lot. That's a lot, you know, that's a lengthy story.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure if they go beyond that or not.
And someone else just wanted to say that Story Jumper looks awesome for English language learners, and
yes,
hopefully wants to have the technology and sponsor to show them a final project. So
yeah, absolutely. And you could do lots of different things with it. I mean, with little kids, they could just be like alphabet books where they're literally just doing letters of the alphabet and pictures that associate. They could be basic word books. I mean, you know, the possibilities are endless, and it's really just based on your creativity. But what I like to do is give the students options. And, you know, we're in a school that uses Readers and Writers Workshop. So when my kids are writing within a particular genre, you know, they choose which one they want to take all the way to publishing, and then they decide. But toward the end of the year, when we've dabbled in different genres, I'll just say, okay, like if I'm absent, if I know that I'm going to be out for whatever reason, one of the things I'll always leave for the kids is go on Story Jumper. Go back into your writer's notebook, find a piece that you haven't taken all the way through the process, jump onto Story Jumper and make it come alive. And you know, kids could sit there for hours. Even the kids that don't like to write love to use Story Jumper. Are we good, Sharon?
Yes, we're good. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see what do we got here. So the next few slides, we're going to talk about something called visual note-taking. You may have heard of it called sketchnoting, or EDUDOODLES is the hashtag that I use. And the idea here is that when students are taking these visual notes, they are using linear notes along with images and connecting these things. They're able to tap into the different learning styles, which increases their recall and their comprehension. And it allows all of those doodlers, and there's probably some of you sitting out there right now that you're the doodler, you're probably doodling while I'm talking, and it doesn't mean that you are not paying attention. In fact, I'm a doodler, and in fact, doodling helps me focus more on when people are talking or when I'm sitting in a classroom. So here are some ways to use visual note-taking in the classroom. When your kids are watching a video, I've seen many, many times that kids, especially those that are a little bit more creative, they sketch instead of taking linear notes. And what I mean by linear notes are strictly words, sentences or phrases, people that do bullets, things along those lines. So these I know are not the easiest to see because the kids were doing them with pencil and paper, but we were doing a unit on the Holocaust, and they watched a video about Anne Frank, and you can see here that their comprehension of the material was actually pretty good. And when they were afterwards, when I asked them to go back and talk amongst themselves of what did they learn, when they referred back to these sorts of notes, it was a lot easier for them to recall what they learned when then they just look back when they just have like a word or a phrase written down. Keeping track of characters. So when you're reading chapter books or you're teaching about protagonist and antagonist and how characters relate to each other, this is another way to keep track of your thinking. And one of the things you may notice here, if you look closely, the connectors, the lines and things like that, it shows the relationships between and among the characters. Here's main idea. So this was a nonfiction piece that the kids read, and you'll see here they have these little banners, almost like headings, and then they have pictures here to describe, what was happening in each section. Again, it's really just another option for note-taking that makes it easier for some kids to comprehend what they're reading. Now, I don't say, teach all kids how to do this. You don't have to. I give it as an option. So I actually have a little presentation that I created for students, and it explained to them how to actually take these visual notes. So if anybody is interested in that, you can email me, and my contact information is on the set of slides, and I can share that with you. That one is literally ready to go. There's really nothing you have to change to it. You could literally just put it right up there in front of the students, run through the presentation, and it teaches kids how to sketch note. So what I do at the beginning of every school year is I teach the kids, and then we do it a couple of times. And then as the school year goes on, I give them the option. There are some kids that are more comfortable taking straight up linear notes, and then others that prefer the sketch notes. So I like to give the kids options. Novel notes. My son is actually doing this right now. He's going into 8th grade, and he is a struggling reader. And one of his biggest issues is capturing his thinking and remembering what he read from chapter to chapter. And he's a creative kid. He's a really kind of, beats to his own drum. And what he does is he uses sticky notes. And at the end of every chapter, he sketches like the main thing, like the big idea that helps him remember what happened in that chapter. So that's another option. And then finally, here's the assessment piece. You can tell the kids, show me what you learned. And in this case, we were doing character traits and evidence to support the character traits. And that's what they did here. So any questions about sketchnoting or visual note taking?
I think we're good. I think we're just getting a lot of, wow, this is great, awesome, you know. So
Oh, good.
thank you.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yes.
Okay, so here's something new that I discovered midway through the school year, and it's called book snaps. This is super cool. This is especially good for middle and upper grade students, like middle and high school. So the idea behind it, or the person that created book snaps, is a teacher from Kansas, and she originally created this to use with high school students using Snapchat. So they literally would use that app to create a book snap. So basically what it is, and you could read the bullet points, you know, here on the screen, it's a way of annotating the text. So, you know, we've learned about close reading. We know that you want kids to analyze text closely. So the idea behind it is you may give them some sort of a prompt or something that you want them to study or look at or search for when they're reading. And what they do is they take a photo of it using Snapchat, and then they go in and use all the filters and the different features to highlight that. So I'm going to show you what it looks like here. So this is what my third graders did. Now the littles don't have access to cell phones and Snapchat. So I reached out to the creator of this on Twitter, and I said to her, okay, so what am I gonna do? Because my kids are 8 years old and they don't have Snapchat. So she's like, honey, use Google Drawings. It works just as well. So what my kids did was they found the piece of text that they wanted to annotate. They used the camera on their Chromebook, and they used a friend because the cameras are on the top of a Chromebook. If you have tablets, it's a lot easier to lay the book down flat, hover over with the tablet and snap the picture. But if kids are using a Chromebook or a laptop or something along those lines, they're probably going to need a friend to hold the book for them. And then, you know, they would have to angle the camera in the right way to snap the picture. They would load the picture into Google Drawings and use all the cool features to do the same thing. So let's take a closer look here. On the left, the piece of text that they focused on here was "You're one hot mama." Okay, and this is when I introduced it to my kids. So this one was a fun one. It wasn't like real serious close reading. This one I just wanted them to play around with and explore what book snaps were all about. So what I told them was they always have to highlight the text in some way. So they literally can use the highlight feature, or what the student did here was used arrows to point out the piece of text, "You're one hot mama." The other requirement is that they should always have the title. This is from Captain Underpants and the Wrath of the Wicked Wedgie Woman by Dave Pilkey. So you need the author and the title of the piece and the author. They have to use the hashtag book snaps, because what I do is I upload these to Twitter. So it becomes part of the book snaps hashtag for the whole world to see. And then over here, this is where their thinking comes into play. This is where that real annotation part is, you know, they have to show their thinking. So she wrote, "I love this. This is so funny that I want to cry." And what do you guys notice over here? Bitmojis. My kids use Bitmojis. So they were taught how to choose a Bitmoji that matches what they're talking about in their book snap. So mind you, the older kids will pick up on this immediately. Middle school and high school kids, you could give them very little instruction with Snapchat, because trust me, they all know how to use it. And then I would just put up someplace for them, these are your bullets. These are the things that you're required. You have to use the hashtag. You have to have the title and author. You have to highlight the piece of text you're talking about. And then you have to actually annotate it with your thinking. Those are really the four big requirements. If you want to add a little Bitmoji, more power to you. This one I thought was great. And she called out over here, "Her green eyes flashed, a devilish grin spread over her face." And she called out, I wish I will get out of school early because there's something in the building," right? So here she has her hashtag. Here she has her little Bitmoji. This is from Goosebumps, Horrorland. There's the author. And she wrote, "This is funny because when," can't read the name there, Marine, did a devilish grin. In my mind, it looks funny. So one of the things we learned is how to visualize while you're reading. Remember, these kids are 8 years old and they're learning those beginning skills of reading. And then over here, she says, when Andy said no, in my head, it sounded funny. So that's why she has the LOL Bitmoji. So does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, and there's questions. Just two quick
Okay.
questions.
Sure.
Do you think children will get distracted by this? And is it too time consuming?
Okay, so that's why you have to get the funny stuff out there. So when I teach them this, I discovered it middle of the school year, so I taught them how to do book snaps right before Christmas vacation. So then they kind of got all the giggles and the silliness out over break, because oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many book snaps they sent me over winter break, because all they did was go home and play with it. Get it out of their system. Let them do the fun stuff. And then when we came back in January, it was all business. And then all the distracting and the funny stuff was we got it out of the way. Because let's be honest, kids are kids, and you can't suck the fun out of everything, right? So give them that opportunity to have a little fun, play around with it, and then when you're ready to get down to business, you get down to business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as time consuming, I'm just that kids pick up on it so quickly. It's really not.
Yeah, they really do. And one of the things, when the kids are having fun, this is a great thing to do literally like the day before break or 2 days before break, when they're off the wall and they can't wait for, Christmas break just to get out of there to begin with. This is a great thing to do because they're going to be totally engaged with it. But when they come back and you're down to business, you need to set a time limit. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't put a timer on the board and say, listen, here's the deal. You have 10 minutes to do this. And what I make them do, anytime I do something fun and creative like this, I make my kids do it in their notebook first, or I make them do it like actually in the book with sticky notes first. So they gather all of their thinking first before they ever open up the device.
Great.
So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. We're getting so close to the end here too, so.
Okay. All right, so blogging. So I'll do this kind of quickly here. I blog, you vlog, we all blog together. So blogging is when you're writing and sharing your thinking with the world. Vlogging is when you're doing, video blogging sort of things. So what I did here was I put a link for information about blogging. Basically, it's like, why not only should your kids be blogging, but you should too. And then at the very bottom, I know this keeps popping up here, but it says my blog. So I'm giving you the link to my personal blog, because I firmly believe that whatever we ask our students to do, we should be willing to get down in the dirt and dig in and do it with them. So I want my kids to be writers, so I'm a writer too. And it's summertime, people. This is a great opportunity to jump on that bandwagon and just start getting your thoughts out there. So what I did for you here was I gave you lots of blogging tools. So when you click on each one of these links, it's going to take you directly to a blogging website. Two quick caveats here. Seesaw, which I mentioned before, I'm a huge fan of. One of the things I love is that anything that the kids write, with the simple click of a button, it can be sent to the world on your classroom blog. So you can actually establish a blog right in the Seesaw platform. So you're not all over the place with too many different tools. And Kid Blog used to be free, but I believe there's a price tag on that now, so I don't use it anymore. I use the Seesaw blog. All of the rest of these have free options. Really quickly, because I think, let me just see how many slides we have left here. I think we're coming to the end. Yeah, we're pretty much almost done here. Livening up your lessons. Voki is cool. Voki allows your kids to, again, they do their writing, but they take that writing and they can create, as you see here, these little avatars. And the cool thing about them is they can either type in what they want the avatar to speak, they can call in to a 1-800 phone number, or they can use the mic on their device, and it could either create a voice, which is their own voice, or they can actually do voices like with accents or robot voices and different things like that. So it's another way to publish work. One of the cool things is once the kids create the avatar, you can grab those URL links when they're done, publish them to either Google Classroom or put them in Seesaw or tweet them out, and then everybody can see them. One of the things I like to do is when I know that I'm going to be absent from school, I create an avatar. I'll either dump it into Seesaw or Google Classroom. So when the kids come in with a substitute and they go into Classroom or Seesaw, they hear me talking to them, basically saying, hi guys, I'm watching, I'm listening. You know, please be on your best behavior. All of your work is here for you in Seesaw. You know, I'll be checking in or something along those lines. So it kind of switches it up a little bit and makes the learning a little bit more fun. Storyboard That is a way of using storyboards and cartoons for kids to publish their writing. And then you have Powtoon, which basically are animated presentations. So again, you're still teaching the content that you're teaching. They're still writing whatever it is you want them to write, but the publishing part makes it a little more fun. You know what I like to say? Throw your kids a bone every once in a while. I'm not saying never do the research project. I'm not saying never write an essay, never type something up on a Google Doc. There's a time and a place for everything, but once in a while, you may just want to liven it up a little bit. And these last two slides here are lots of different options for using tech tools. So when your kids are reading and you want them to do some compare contrast work, whether it's characters, setting, or events, if you click on this link, it'll take you to PictoChart. PictoChart allows students to create infographics, which are great tools for doing compare and contrast work. Of course, we talked about blogging, discussing the text. You can use Voxer, which is a voice app where kids can literally, you can create a group for the classroom. You can monitor the group. You can throw prompts in there, like you could text prompts, and the kids can have active discussions about whatever it is they're reading or writing about. Today's meet, and in the interest of time, we're over, so we're not going to be able to go in there, but this is what we call back channeling. The way that you were asking Sharon questions, that's back channeling. So while I'm here teaching you and talking to you, you're able to ask questions and get them answered. Today's meet does that for you. And then here's Blabberize again. And then the last slide here is instead of you creating quizzes with Google Forms, Kahoot, or Quizlet, give the tools to the kids and let the kids create them. Google Slides, this link right here, takes you to a step-by-step directions on how to write a choose your own adventure story. So those of you that were kids in the 90s, and you remember those choose your own adventure where the protagonist came to choices in the book. Should they do this or do that? And based on your choice, it went to a different page of the book. Should they go here or go there, left or right? And based on your choice, it went to another point in the book. You can use Google Slides and create those for your kids, or your kids can create those stories. And then the last thing here is flippity.net. And I'm just going to click on it really quickly. Flippity has grown so much in the last 2 years. Look at all these super cool tools. Lots and lots of different things that you can use. And the nice thing about Flippity is they actually give you a template, and all you have to do is go put in your personal information. So then if, you know, Flippity quiz show, you would put in your own questions and answers. The random name picker, which is my all-time favorite feature, you create it once at the beginning of the school year with all of your kids' names, and then it randomly puts kids into groups or chooses them for different activities. And the final thought I want to leave you with, I just threw so much at you. Your minds are probably ready to explode right now. But I love this quote, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. So some of you might be sitting there and you're ready to jump in wholesale and try a ton of these things out. Some of you may be sitting there saying, oh my God, there's so much here. I think I'm only going to try one thing. So either way is fine. There's no wrong way to approach using technology and enhancing your classroom in that way. So whatever your colleague sitting next to you is doing may not be what you're doing, and it may be different from the person sitting on the other side of you, and all of that is okay.
Thanks, Chrissy. We had two quick questions. I know we're over, but I just wanted to get these in if that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
Someone
I'm
said,
in no rush. I'm
yeah.
okay.
Someone said you mentioned Book Snaps was originally created for older students, but how effective would Book Snaps be to use for longer pieces?
Well, the idea behind book snaps is you're annotating the text.
Mm.
So when you're doing close reading, you're really only looking for certain things that pop out to you. So if the idea is for looking for theme, thinking older kids now, right? So if they're reading a novel and you're looking for evidence of the theme, what they would go through is they would take maybe 3 snapshots of the 3 pieces of evidence or the 4 pieces of evidence that support the theme that they chose. And maybe they would make 3 book snaps or 4 book snaps. Or you would say, I want you to pick the best piece of evidence to support your thesis statement for, the literary essay that you're going to be writing. I mean, you really can use it in any way. The idea is to really narrow your focus. So whatever prompt or whatever reading strategy you're working on, that's what they should be honing in on. So if you remember, if we go back to that slide with the student that said over here, the comment here about they were able to see it, right? In my mind, it looks funny. We were working on the reading strategy of visualizing as you're reading. So this is a chapter book. I mean, this book is 100 pages long. And what she did was capture that particular time where she was able to visualize something in her head. I mean, hopefully that makes sense. Does that, and whoever asked that question, does that make sense?
I'll see if they say yes, but it did. But let me ask one more and see
Sure.
if they write in. Oh, yes, thank you. It was great. Yes, it helped. Are there rules for blogging that you give your students so they don't
Rules?
Yeah, do you give them any rules so they don't misuse it, or are there any guidelines or something like that?
I mean, anytime at the beginning of every school year, I begin with digital citizenship, and I teach the kids about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and so on. So they do learn those basics before they're allowed to do anything that goes out to the world. In terms of blogging, I mean, I do tell them, they have to watch their mechanics, their capitalization, their punctuation. This is something that's going out to the world that everybody's going to see. And one of the amazing things is that, research is showing now that when students write for more than just the teacher, their writing is better. Their thinking behind their writing is better. It's more cohesive. It makes more sense. They tend to be more creative and they tend to care more about what they're writing than if they're writing, unfortunately, just for us, the teacher. They care more about, I guess, what the world thinks than us. I mean, I know that doesn't sound good, but that's really, that's really what it is. And if you think about it, the kids have so much access outside of school. Why not match that in the classroom? Give them the same ability to reach the same audience that they would if they're out of school. So do I give them guidelines? Yes, absolutely. But I do not try to stifle their creativity. So hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we should wrap up because people are having to leave. But I want to thank you, Chrissy, so much for a really great webinar, great innovative things. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Just a few little housekeeping things. Everybody will be getting the link to the YouTube channel tomorrow. We'll also be getting these slides, and you can play around with the links also when you get this. Just so you know, I don't know if you've all signed up for the one on the 30th, August 30th. It's Think Outside the Box with Google Classroom, another webinar by Chrissy. And I believe, Chrissy, we're going to do one more on the 16th.
Yeah, that's Google Forms.
It's going to be Google Forms, and it will be interactive. So you'll have to have a device that you can play along when Chrissy is.
And a G Suite account. So if you don't have a Gmail, you'll have to sign up for Gmail because along with Gmail comes Drive. So you have to have a Gmail account before then. But
we'll send your email out and you can see what we'll be telling you to do. So thank you all for attending. I hope you liked it. And you will I'll also put the link in the email, the beginning link. So you should have all the information tomorrow. If you have any questions, you can ask me, Sharon, or you can ask Chrissy. And thank you for all attending, and hopefully we'll see you in another 2 weeks. Thank you, and thank you, Chrissy.
You're welcome. Sharon, hang on for just a minute after they go, because I want to check this link to make sure that it works.
Okay. Bye, everyone.